So it's the day after 9/11. Sam, have you taken your ivermectin?
Yes, as I do every day, but on this day, double the dose.
Yeah, we're in the same room, even if you're watching on video, even if it doesn't look like it.
Yeah, even though I look like the small voice of reason on Dan's shoulder sitting here.
Yeah, the uh Jiminy Cricket.
Either that or I'm like a prisoner of war in here.
Yeah, so we're gonna be talking 9/11, maybe a little ivermectin. Um, you know, God, it's gonna be a fun show today. Um, anything else before we begin, Sam?
I mean, it's Boxing Day for 9/11, and we're just chock full of 9/11 energy, something that a cultural moment that honestly defined most of our lives. So this is going to be a banger. Let's get into it.
Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen.
Who let the hogs out?
This is Hog Planet, and yes, like I said, we are in the same room. I don't think we've done a pod in the same room in like years, right?
I feel like we've like almost never done this. I think maybe like when we first created the podcast, maybe like the first episode is us in the same room.
Yeah, I mean, other than that, yeah, maybe there's like two or three, but yeah. So this is a rarity. We're both in Brooklyn. We saw the My Morning Jacket concert in Forest Hills last night, where you could in fact see the lights of the the site of Ground Zero. Um, where do we begin on this? I have saturated myself in 9/11 media for like 2 weeks. How about you, Sam?
I turned up the dial last week or two, but it's something that's like it was so culturally significant to this day that like I feel like I've been steeped in it for most of my life. I mean, Dan, where were you when the world stopped turning?
I think it was fourth grade, 9 years old. I remember that we were told like the Twin Towers, a plane flew into them. I didn't appreciate the gravity of it at the time, I think, because I don't know, when you're a kid, it just is like a movie and you can't really like differentiate. You know, as an adult, you you watch some of that footage and you realize like, oh, this is like you just like died going to work.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe because we live in a country that doesn't get attacked that often. I think, and especially in the '90s, I feel like those disaster movies were really common, like Armageddon or like Independence Day, specifically the one I'm thinking of that I definitely saw way too many times for someone like under 10 years old. But either way, I mean, in that, every major city in the world mostly is blown to bits by aliens, and like those movies tapered off real quick after 9/11. I remember feeling like at the time that it happened, like it was just something out of a movie because TV generation, we can't differentiate real life from fantasy sometimes. But at the same rate, I guess in the years to come, I was like, wow. Now when I look back on it, it was such a sea change, especially in terms of culture, which we will get into, of course.
Yeah. So I think what stood out to me most about like re-examining 9/11, and I don't think we're gonna go too deep into the cause it. I don't really want to do the whole describe the Bush administration's full culpability in this, because honestly it's like so detailed and you can get that elsewhere. We kind of just want to talk about 9/11, like you know, as a brand, as a culture, as a moment in history. But Bush did it, right?
Bush did 9/11. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we're getting into the route now. Now. Everyone who is about to turn the podcast off. I think the Bush did 9/11 conspiracy theory might be like, it's not the same as like being a Sandy Hook truther, you know? Like it's not the same.
Fuck no.
Like if anything, if Bush did 9/11, it makes the crime almost more severe. It makes it like he perpetrated all the misery that you saw. I mean, we've been watching for the past few days the National Geographic documentary One Day in America about 9/11. And it is harrowing. And the daily like heroism that was displayed in that is just, I mean, it's astounding. And there's no way to take it away from that. I think my mic might be coming out a little bit. I'm trying to hold it steady.
Plug that XLR in a little tighter there.
All right.
And you'll be fine.
Anyway, yeah, it just the day-to-day events. I mean, there's nothing to take away from the heroism there. So if you think like if you think that it was done by George Bush, it makes it more severe. It makes it worse, and it doesn't take away the sacrifice of those firefighters. If anything, it makes it like more heinous, the fact that so many people had to give their lives saving people if the Bush administration was in on it at all. And I don't know, they just were. We're gonna find out in like 60 years. They were.
Yeah, and when we say in on it, the degree to which that is the case is unknown, much like the Kennedy assassination. It's like there's certain moments in history that are utterly inscrutable in that way because we just don't have the evidence. Like, where was Dick Cheney that day? Like, we still don't know.
Two explosions. Who could come on? Everyone, eyewitnesses. 2 explosions. Like,
so, I mean, there's frames missing from the video of the plane hitting the Pentagon. Go figure that one out. United 93 was shot down. I think that could be true. I think that definitely could be true. Like, they had authorization to do it, and the whole, you know, they took back the plane story is maybe easier to stomach than the plane getting shot down.
that might be true, honestly. And I feel like the events after the attack on the towers are the weirdest. Like the record is so much more flimsy. I think we've discussed this podcast before.
Your mic went out again. Hold.
I am holding it.
There you go.
You heard it here first, folks. Dan has shitty mic equipment. Just kidding.
Unacceptable
may
criticism here.
If you cut me off one more. Anyway, I may have mentioned on this podcast before the DC people who are mad that the Pentagon doesn't really get any credit for being in 9/11.
Get over it.
Despite the fact that like 30 times more people died in the twat towers than in, and also, I mean, like,
I'm sorry. There was like military personnel. It's like
ostensibly those people knew what they were in for.
It's not the same as a bunch of like fucking bankers and fucking like office workers and restaurant workers.
There's no hotel connected to the Pentagon, you know. I mean, now there's like hotels near the Pentagon, but they're not like, it's not like the Twin Towers, like the Marriott was like right underneath the towers and got, you know, fucking demolished along with the buildings themselves.
So when we say Bush did it, that could go even as lightly and uncontroversial as saying he literally ignored the intelligence that he received, saying there was an imminent attack from Osama bin Laden and the Taliban coming, literally ignoring that intelligence, the CIA, like ignoring that intelligence. I mean, that means they did it through inaction. And that's like being charitable because there's so much other stuff at play.
Him like shipping the bin Laden family out of America, like 2 days after 9/11 when nobody else was really like allowed to fly at that
over
time.
20 members of the bin Laden family.
Yeah, that and the Bush family's extensive financial ties to the bin Ladens. I mean,
he had dinner with Prince Bandar, the Saudi ambassador, on September 13th.
Oh,
explain that.
It's just odd.
Like how many of the hijack? It was like 19 of the hijacker. Oh no, there were 19 hijackers, but I think it was like 15 or 16 of them were Saudis. It just doesn't. it's almost as if like preserving the economic relationship with Saudi Arabia was extreme priority as soon as it happened.
Yeah, like I'm willing to believe that. And of course, I mean, we could also go into how Bush or the conservatives, of which the Bush family are, important figures in the United States, funded the Mujahideen and and Osama bin Laden in the 80s and stuff. Like this is at best a case of blowback. At worst, like a wanton ignorance of like this threat. If we're gonna assume that they weren't in on it, like I don't know if like Bush was like, oh, I need to blow up the World Trade Center to like do war in Iraq, but I don't know. Like there's a lot that he knew that it must have been mishandled on some level if you're going to assume that Bush wasn't culpable on some level.
Yeah, and he was out of Washington. He was in that school in Florida. People say in these fucking, I was watching the Frontline, like America After 9/11 thing, and some of the sort of like just really like uncritical look at Bush's reaction in the moment, where he just sat in the fucking classroom and kept reading the book, and he had fucking been told before he entered the classroom that the first plane had hit.
Yeah.
He sits there after being told that America's under attack, the second plane hit. It's a little odd to me how not how composed this, because he would be composed if he knew it was something was going to happen, but it's like he does not look fucking shocked.
He looks as if he didn't know how to act. Here, take these so I can hold this mic together. I think yeah, I agree that his reaction is really weird, especially because he goes in knowing that one plane had already hit the North Tower, and what it looks like is he doesn't know how he's supposed to look. It looks like he's trying to act normal, like he's almost like whistling and like leaning up against a wall and like looking up at the sky or something. Like that's like the facial equivalent of what he's doing. And genuinely, there's been a lot of retconning since then. I watched this recent BBC interview with numerous members of the Bush administration, including George W. Bush, and he was explaining about like, oh, I didn't want to cause a panic. Like when you find out the country's under attack, then it's a scary thing, and you gotta maintain your composure. That's what it's like to be president. Nobody expects this. There's been a lot of like retconning to act like his reaction was like reasonable or the right thing to do. Like I've seen politicians walk out of media appearances for way stupider reasons than like, oh, the United States is under attack. And also, we said he went into that thing knowing that one plane had hit the trade center. There's been a lot of like, I don't know, in some of the stuff we've watched, there's been a lot of attempts to be like, of course, at that point, they thought it was just an accident. Like who wouldn't think it was just an accident, despite the fact that like the World Trade Center is not really in like a flight path. There are I don't know, there are airports around New York, but there aren't like, it's not like it's not by the World Trade Center. Like the Pentagon thing is weirder to me because the Pentagon is right next to like Reagan National
There's other
Airport.
stuff, like it hit a wall that was designed to withstand like a blast. It was like the only section that was designed like that or something. And the plane flew so low and did basically like a military or Air Force level,
Yes.
like descent. And it was flying so low that it was clipping light poles. It makes no sense. The Pentagon one is like the weirdest one.
Yeah, it really is. So that's why it's interesting when DC people steal valor, because a lot of people who steal valor about it just wish that like the Pentagon had been leveled like the towers, so they had more to complain about. I hate to say it, because like, yeah, I mean, people died in that attack, but nowhere near as many as in the World Trade Center attacks. And the Pentagon, as you said, is kind of a military target, but it's also like DC's built specifically so that it doesn't have something like the World Trade Center, where they were saying like something like 70,000 people were in the World Trade Center on any given day. And it's like this big sore thumb sticking out of Manhattan. It's not like, I don't know, like the Pentagon or like buildings in DC, which are all small and low, even though they're large buildings. Like the Pentagon has like an internal metro service. But it's like, it's low. Yeah, it's hard to hit. You'd have to strafe it, which is like a military style flying technique. I don't know. Either like the bin Ladens were just insanely well trained, or the people who we worked with were insanely well trained, or there was something going on there. I don't know. It's odd.
Which all indications are they were just a bunch of idiots at the flight school, like going to strip clubs and getting drunk and like enjoying Western culture in Florida.
Well, but that's actually like field research for how to be a military dipshit, like an Air Force dipshit. I mean, in the U.S., that's what our people are doing. So.
Yeah, and they shaved their beards to assimilate. That's why in all those pictures, like most of them didn't have beards. It's pretty crazy. Like they showed video in one of the things I was watching of Muhammad Atta, like in the airport, and even a couple of the hijackers got picked for extended questioning. And they still did, like, so just that's so all the weird. Airport security shit we have to do now is so fucking useless.
Yeah, and it's so recent. You really could just like fly with like anything back in the day. Like my dad was a journalist, and he would always have massive camera bags flying through the airport. He could put like any kind of terroristic weapon in there, and they would be like, because back then it used to magnetize the film if you put it through a metal detector, so they would just let you not run it through if you were like, oh, it's a camera bag. So like anything could have been in. I don't know. It is amazing how recent it was. Like I want to say like they should have been more fascistic like they are today back then to have prevented 9/11. But it's just one example of how much of a cultural shift it caused, because it was the first time we were attacked on our own soil I mean, also our own soil, like, Pearl Harbor is like occupied Hawaiian territory as far as I'm concerned. New York also occupied, but they did technically buy it, I guess. I don't know, whatever.
For like $20 or something.
Oh, that's another historical retcon, not to go on a tangent, but there's a lot of like over like inflating the value of what the Dutch paid for Manhattan or whatever.
That Mike.
Maybe it's just trying to cut me off. It's just hating me when I just.
This is the deep state.
Yeah.
They're trying to silence us.
The Patriot Act is the reason for this.
So, yeah, I mean, there's so many different tangents we can go on. Why don't we just describe like 9/11, like the events, as we've seen them reconstructed so many times in the last couple of weeks. So 19 hijackers take control.
Have you guys ever heard about 9/11?
19 hijackers take control of 4 planes. The first plane hits the North Tower.
8:46.
8:46.
We set an alarm for it yesterday.
We did. We woke up at 8:46.
And then went right back to sleep.
Yeah, but come on, it was 9/11. We had to do it.
It's a 9/11 sleepover party. We're waking up at 8:46.
Yeah. So I don't know. When you see the big hole in the building, and like when you see the footage and the first reactions to it, it's like, okay, maybe this was an accident. Like maybe.
Yeah.
Like even though like logically, like yeah, like, but you see it in real time, you're like, okay, like who, like how it could, And
it was it's like a direct hit. Like the plane like disappears into the building.
Yeah. Jet fuel pours down the elevator shaft, like killing many people instantly. And it was like, burning at like 1,000 degrees or something. So the thing that stuck with me the most this go around of thinking about 9/11, probably more than I ever have in my life. The thing that stuck with me the most was like the jumpers.
Yeah. And the viscera of the jumpers, because like you hear about the jumpers, but like the fact that the human body moving at that speed, like the amount of acceleration you get from just pure gravity, like a 100 to 200 pound person.
And despite what you may think about losing consciousness, like you're totally conscious till you hit the ground at that speed. And the people who jumped like in the North Tower, anyone above what floor was it? Was it the 100? No, it wasn't the 104th. It was a little lower. Anyone who was above the plane on those floors like couldn't get out because the stairwells were all fucked.
Yeah, it was only like a very small amount of people who like were near the impact zone who made it out. Like that guy Stanley Pramnath, who they interview, who's one of the best like raconteurs in the National Geographic documentary.
Yeah, this guy describes like seeing the plane is just like a little dot, and then it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and he hides under his desk and survives somehow. And I think he got like covered in a wall or something, and then like this other guy, Brian something, came in and like pulled him out and saved him.
Yeah, it was beautiful to see how many like friendships were forged in that like crucible of an experience.
Yeah, in that doc, they only told like one real story of a guy like leaving someone behind. Like it really seemed like a lot of people were like helping each other to descend the tower. So imagine, the tower gets hit, then you have to descend all these floors. Like, and a lot of people work in offices are not like young and mobile.
Not at all.
So, and they had pictures from inside the stairwell, and it's just like, people evacuating. Like you think about any fire drill you've ever done, and like think about like literally like you are in a building that is extremely compromised. Like think of the sheer terror of that,
especially like a big building. And I mean, a lot of people who work in offices like that have fear of heights. They just kind of deal with it every day, and then like your worst fear comes true. That's
so I mean, it's crazy. In the upper floor, and almost like 200 people jumped to their deaths, which is so sad. It's so fucked up when you in that Nat Geo 9/11 One Day in America documentary, when you are seeing the firefighters in the lobby, and then they just hear this like cement bag thuds of people.
Oh, yeah,
it's really brutal.
This time around, the sounds of 9/11 really stuck to me. Like the sound of
that alarm,
the alarm, and also the plane. Like the sound of the plane crunching into the building is something,
especially the second one, because that like there were some videos of that were really visceral. That one famous video that's in a lot of stuff of the like NYU dorm, and then they're like right there, and they like get the second plane hitting on video, and it's like it's fucking crazy. I mean, it's just like a giant fireball.
Yeah.
People say there's bombs in the building. Like, that seems like I don't
the technical side of it. That's not my department.
It's like the people,
I care about the political and like economic implications or whatever.
It's like the people who obsess over JFK and like ballistics. It's I don't need to hear people who aren't like experts talk about stuff because they like heard it. It's like
there are also more armchair military experts than like any other kind of person on earth, I think.
Yeah. So
at least in my experience.
So you have people jumping from the South Tower as well. And there was one stairway that stayed open, stairway B, I believe. And people were able to descend from there. And obviously the South Tower was hit lower, so it fell first. And got images of that like dust cloud.
That's what I recall most vividly is the dust.
Yeah. And
because that's like the lasting impact.
Shit, I dropped my own. When people say my own personal 9/11, it really takes on a new meaning when you see 9/11 play out in the videos. But yeah, what do you think about 9/11 like documentaries in general, or like 9/11 that firsthand media?
There's 9/11 and like the war on terror is like one of the most famously lied about things on earth.
Also, but simultaneously the most like televised and like public, and like like those images repeating constantly, and like that carnage replayed to like essentially like drum up the fucking hunger for war.
Yeah, I struggle with it because it can so easily veer into revisionism. Like I watched the Netflix 9/11 documentary, and that was just trash. It was one of the ones that talked about like the Soviet quote unquote invasion of Afghanistan. It's not an invasion if the current government invites you to come in and help them defeat rebels. And then it's certainly like not something to, I guess, like in that documentary, it seemed like they were just kind of acting like the Soviet Union caused 9/11 somehow in some cosmic way, or caused like strife in Afghanistan, like they started it, which is not really true at all. Because what happened after that is the U.S. funded the Mujahideen, many of the members of which became Taliban and Al Qaeda. Funded them to the
armed them
and funded them to the tunes of like billions every year in parts of the 80s. And that war between the Soviet Union trying to put down the Mujahideen rebels, who were right wing by any stretch of the imagination, religious fanatics, to act like there's like some moral superiority that the Soviet Union left behind or something because they started it, is kind of ridiculous. So that's just like one example of how much, like, I want to say there's part of it is hagiography, acting like George Bush was competent, which I heard that Netflix documentary does later on. And then there's just like outright revisionism, where you're acting like things happened a certain way when they just didn't. And that's something I find annoying about 9/11 documentaries, especially because 9/11 was used in many ways to justify the worst atrocities of the
basically
21st century.
we did like hundreds of 9/11s to the Middle East
to
innocent
people
people
who didn't do anything.
I mean, Iraq had nothing to do with it, of course,
the entire country, and also the random people in Afghanistan don't have anything to do with it either. Like, they just happen to live there.
Exactly.
It's sort of like it's like exactly why by any objective measure, it is a crime to blow up the World Trade Center. And like, I'm not tanky enough to say that should blow up like the center of American finance and like kill
it's fucking stupid.
Thousands of civilians. Isolated acts of terrorism don't like usually help ideological goals, but either way, it's just kind of ridiculous because it's the same crime perpetrated against people who didn't do it. And it's like, yeah, I mean, the people who work in the World Trade Center aren't like all captains of industry or like subjugating the global south or whatever.
They're like maintenance workers. Have you ever worked in a fucking building? It's not just people in business casual.
I loved the chef that they interviewed in the National Geographic one.
Yeah, that guy was crazy because his story was crazy because he was in the fucking refrigerator for 15 minutes when the first plane hit.
And all the service industry people, though, that a walk-in refrigerator is basically like a bomb shelter. Like, you can go in there and like survive the nuclear holocaust.
Yeah. And basically his story was like, he took an elevator down and his friend like wouldn't get into it, and his friend didn't make it out. He had to take it down like 3 floors, so he did, and then his friend didn't come with him and he died. Really sad stories of like, I mean, God, one story I read that was crazy was like, there was one firefighter who was killed by a jumper, and just absolutely brutal. But the guys in his unit, like, because they took him to the hospital, or in his battalion or whatever, they took him to the hospital, and because they were out of the zone when the South Tower fell, they like survived.
There's
a lot of like, just, it's not fair like who lives or dies, and that's like what 9/11 really brings out, is like, it's all just random, and there's no like there's no justice to any of it. It just fucking sucks.
So, yeah, it made me think a lot of I mean, this is such a fucking high school example of a catch-22, and how Yossarian realizes that like man is just meat when it's met with like warfare, and bodies are like nothing. They can be like incinerated or like just fall apart or be crushed. It's just so brutal. So yeah, I guess like that's where I'm at with like 9/11 in terms of like it seriously, is that it was like such an example of like the brutality that we don't see in the US very often, like I don't know, or when we see it, it's not because of an external threat, it's because we're doing it to ourselves. But either way, I mean, now we should probably get into like the absolutely awful effect it had on our culture, our entertainment, obviously our politics. Obviously the Middle East was all fucked because of 9/11, as if they weren't.
And again, that's like a 6-hour podcast. Like we can't go into, there's so much I want to go into, but we're not going to make this 7 hours long.
And it's Hog Planet, so we got to lighten it up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you don't want to be too light when you're talking about 9/11 because that's you know, at least in this way where it's like it's a retrospective here. It's there's and I think like the I don't know, can't be understated how bad the culture was.
Cannot. So we were listening to a dope playlist 9/11 songs on Spotify
Yeah,
previously.
which we referred to them as 9/11 carols.
Yeah. Yeah, 9/11's kind of like Christmas for America in some weird way. They did tell us to shop after 9/11. They were like, go shopping.
Go shopping
like,
and
right.
to be patriotic. Like, don't let if you don't like go and support American capitalism, you know, by feeding these department stores, you are letting the terrorists win.
Yeah.
There's so many things like that. You let the terrorists win. Like that just seeped into our culture. Like freedom fries, you know, like
I heard you let the terrorists win as recently as like this year when we pulled out of Afghanistan. Like,
I mean,
some New York Times hack had like an opinion page that was like, you lost Afghanistan. I was like, I was just sitting here, motherfucker. I've never taken part in Afghanistan.
There's no we, man. It's like I you know, you feel bad for like veterans, but there's
they had to fight it. Like you're saying
Yeah.
that they lost Afghanistan, you dickhead. Not me. I never did anything.
The reality is like, yeah, it's like, you know, one thing, you know, and we watched Fahrenheit 9/11 and one
classic,
and that was like to me some of the best.
Held the fuck up.
The best of 9/11 culture is like Fahrenheit 9/11. Like,
yeah, definitely.
Michael Moore, you know, he can be really like annoying and silly sometimes and like histrionic, but the man is a fucking legend for, you know, I'm gonna pull it up. We played it on the show before, but I'm gonna pull it up.
What did I call off air? I called them Eric Andre stunts, like when he's in the ice cream truck reading the Patriot Act on Capitol Hill, encouraging like Congress people to enroll their kids in the in the army at this time, like so they could go fight in Iraq. I mean, we needed that in like 2004. 2004 was like one of the darkest years, maybe of my entire life. Not just because of George Bush, like obviously other personal stuff, but like Jesus Christ. I don't know. Oh my God, there's so many iconic like Michael Moore moments, like him denouncing the Iraq war at the Oscars and being booed for it. And that's such a blast from the past. Like people don't remember. I remember seeing recently Oprah in the like Iraq war years having the right hand man to Ahmed Chalabi, you know, one of the chief architects of like disinformation about Saddam Hussein in Iraq, that and just uncritically saying like, this isn't propaganda, this is just what's happening. And I was like, that's what propaganda says. You fucking, it was just so weird. Like, you know, daytime moms just like cranked on Zoloft watching Oprah are getting like hit with, we should be blowing up a country that most you can't put on a map. I mean,
how could Congress pass this Patriot Act without even reading it?
How could they? No, but seriously, like you had like the daytime talk shows even basically just utter bloodlust.
Oh God.
You know,
and I remember this well enough because we should disclose the like, yeah, we were both like 9 when 9/11 happened, so I was like young enough that like it was serious and it was everywhere, and I still but like old enough that I remember.
But I remember being furious about the Patriot Act, right?
Yeah,
like, the Patriot Act like extended this level of surveillance that just, it made no sense, right? Like, how are you going to tell who's a terrorist from like what library books they take out? It's absurd.
Exactly.
And Michael Moore shows in this documentary, like the people they target, it's like what, like it was a Fresno, California, like peace club.
I love that because that's something that I didn't have the cultural context for, but now that I'm an adult, all the left punching that like liberals do makes so much sense because I forgot, or I didn't really know at the time, that this was like a huge excuse for liberals to punch left at like, yeah, weirdos in Fresno who are like, you know, nice old hippies who like eat cookies and like support Palestine or something like that. Like all the people, you know, who are like, I'm liberal, but they're too far left. They like had a reason or like an excuse to like be suspicious of them. And they didn't care when those people were like gone after. Like Michael Moore was seen as like a fringe leftist at that time, you know?
How could Congress pass this Patriot Act without even reading it?
Sit down, my son. We don't read most of the bills.
Yeah, reading is lame,
Do
to be
you
honest.
really know what that would entail if we were to read every bill that we passed?
Oh man.
Well, because
I couldn't believe that virtually no member of Congress had read the
Classic
Patriot Act
Michael
before
Moore
voting
stunt.
on it. So I
This is also how
decided the
Washington
only
works.
patriotic thing to do
This is how it
was
works
for
in the
me
post-70s
to read
era.
it to them.
So he's in an ice cream
Congress,
truck.
this is Michael Moore. I would like to read to you the USA Patriot Act. Section 1.
Get
Section
hit there,
210 of this code reads as follows.
Fuck them up, Mike.
I love the shocked reaction from the like the suits on Capitol Hill. Oh, you guys interested in PNC?
No, we're not playing any ads.
We will if you pay us. I mean, never. No. I have principles.
Yeah, unless it's for erectile dysfunction medication.
Yeah, or CBD.
Yeah, which maybe those can go hand in hand at some point. But sorry, what were we just saying?
Oh, all right. Either way, what was your memory of Fahrenheit 9/11?
Oh God,
like,
I saw it in theaters with my dad. And
that's the most wholesome shit I've ever seen in my life. You're like 12, seeing it with your dad.
Yes, the both of us were like, yeah, it was like 2003 or 2004. We went to a theater. I remember there was a trailer for some shark movie, and literally this is like a movie.
Shark Tale?
No, it was a actual like shark attack movie.
Oh, okay, like open water or something.
Yeah, so that was actually probably the movie.
That's a good one.
And some old guy shouted, another trailer, can we get to the fucking picture? It's just a memory that I still have before Fahrenheit 9/11. But no, it was, it blew my fucking mind that someone could like use humor and just be like feel like an everyman type of guy. I'd never seen Roger and Me. I'd never seen Bowling for Columbine.
Yeah, we were way too young for that one.
But Michael Moore became kind of like an icon at that time.
Yeah, because he and like Jon Stewart for a while were like all we had. we also watched the Stephen Colbert correspondence dinner recently, which is a little like off topic from 9/11, because that was in like the dark days of the Bush administration where they were really fucking up, like in the late 2000s, But that was wild to remember that Stephen Colbert used to be really funny.
Yeah, and also just that it was nice to see, because I've read a bit of, just in my like world at work, it's like, the comedy stuff, I always kind of see the press about it. And Mark Maron was talking about how like people at the the fabled Comedy Cellar table were like bloodthirsty about like kill all the Muslims and shit after 9/11, and it was really sad to read, and there were only a few leftists in that scene, and Mark was one of them, I guess, and that's why he worked at Air America, I guess, because he's one of the few comedians like him, like Janine Garofalo and like Al Franken. There was like like David Cross, there were some comedians who really went hard against Bush, but a lot of people were just like, kind of just supported Bush and the war. And
yeah.
A lot of like Hollywood was so fucking pro Bush, and just all right, I'm gonna pull up the Michael Moore getting booed at the Oscars.
Yeah, to give us an idea of like how it seems like quaint. Like nowadays I've seen like 20 somethings like myself talking about how Michael Moore is like too liberal for them, coming at him from the left, and I'm like, I mean, yeah, whatever, like you can have any opinion you want on this stuff, but he at the time it was about as left as it got. I don't know, maybe that's had like a deleterious effect on like quote unquote progressivism, but yeah, either way, I mean, this is definitely a good image to show how bad culture got in the dark days after 9/11, like the fear that 9/11 engendered. This is the culture that it wrought.
So this is the Academy Awards. Yeah, and this is how Hollywood thought of George Bush. Yeah, so that was the 9/11 culture in a nutshell. like saying even the most basic like statements about how the American people didn't fucking deserve this bloodthirsty response to 9/11.
And it was foisted on us. Like it was
Yes.
foisted. There was an anti-war movement. It was like millions of people at its peak, but I don't know. It's just like this pervasive, like scared center left, like center right coalition. And then of course, I think like the far right tendencies of that just kind of went out of control into the Trump years. And now I don't know. I'm not saying I don't want to do also. I've seen the take that's like what January 6th like didn't happen without 9/11. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
No, some congressional candidate or congresswoman was like Pam Keith, her name is. She said that I thought 9/11 was the worst day in my life. And then January 6th happened.
Oh my God.
Just pathetic.
What's crazy is that honestly, a conservative, like a January 6th rioter might say the same thing, but from the other perspective, just be like, the police shot us in cold blood. Like,
yeah, right.
That was my 9/11. Like everyone's
insurrectionists. I mean, imagine like people were incinerated at work.
I know. It's brutal. I mean, well, should we get into, speaking of people like using 9/11 for their own reasons, should we get into some 9/11 faking? Because that's a phenomenon of the past 20 years that I think doesn't get explored enough.
So you have Steve Ranazzisi, the comedian from The League. Steve Ranazzisi described escaping from a Merrill Lynch office in the 54th floor of the South Tower. He told Mark Maron, I was there and then the first plane got hit and we were like jostled all over the place. Jostled.
Would you describe that as a jostling? That's not a jostling. Getting jostled is like, I don't know, you hit a bump on the highway or something. Like, I don't know, like a fucking like plane, a jetliner smashing into the side of the building you're working on is not quite a jostling in my book, but I guess I wasn't there, and neither was he.
No, and he was on that show, The League. He was the main character. He was pretty funny. I mean, he's still around. He's working. I think they pulled his stand-up special because it was airing literally that weekend, and like he was getting press, and then people looked into his history of the New York Times, literally like, confronted him about this, and he in fact was not working at Merrill Lynch, was working in Midtown, nowhere near the towers. So he just created this origin story so he could like say like, and then I realized I had to like follow my dreams and become a comedian in LA.
I mean, yeah, he just took it and made it part of his like, I don't know, growth myth. I think a lot of people did this in like in less direct ways, but it is funny that not only did he not work at Merrill Lynch, they had no record of his employment, but also they don't have offices in either tower. So he wasn't even describing working in something that like was there, but he still said that he had falling dreams from 9/11. I don't know. I do like that he took a day to deliberate with the New York Times when they presented evidence that he probably did not do that, which I don't know why they were looking into it. But I don't know. Kudos to them for being petty. I mean, I wish I could do cutting edge journalism like this, I guess. But I don't know. There's another one, of course. There's Tanya Head. I think this one's like maybe worse.
No, okay. So God. Okay, so she's this woman who wasn't even in New York when 9/11 happened. She's believed to be in Barcelona. She claims that she was in the South Tower. She claims that she was badly burned, which like to start, like you okay. She says a dying man handed her his inscribed wedding ring, which she later returned to his widow. She claimed that this guy who's famous for being the man in the red bandana, he's called, he like helped a bunch of people in the 78th floor sky lobby. So she claimed that he helped her out. And then like, what is the family gonna do? Like question that? Yeah. And this guy, I forgot his name, Wells something. He he helped like he was like a volunteer fireman, and he helped a bunch of people out. He was just having me working there, and he died when the tower collapsed. So this woman, Tanya Head, says that he staunched the flames on her on fire clothing, and she says that a man named Dave was her fiance, and I think they made up a pseudonym for the article, but basically his family had never even heard of her. That like his roommate never even heard of her. Like, questionable if she even knew this guy. And she said that he was lost in the North Tower. So it was this story of like she was in the South Tower, he was in the North Tower, and he died. So it's this extremely elaborate story. She ended up like becoming a leader of a 9/11 survivors group, and she gave tours of Ground Zero as one of only 19 survivors. And then that's why I was reading the story. I was like, yeah, didn't they say there were only 18 who got out of the tower after above the point of impact in the South Tower? And her story deeply moved college students, and Mayor Rudolph Giuliani,
King,
Governor George Pataki, and Mayor Michael Bloomberg. The World Trade Center Survivors Network was where a lot of this stuff was posted. It does not
no way. And she also said she worked at Merrill Lynch. What is this? This is so weird. I don't know. I take it as like everybody wants to feel special and everyone wants to feel something. And I guess for some people that takes the form of telling a lot of people that you survived 9/11 when this lady wasn't even on the right side of the country. Like, I don't know.
And she says, I have done nothing illegal.
I mean,
because she didn't claim the victim compensation fund payout, which, like, I guess if you had a fiance, you could do that. So she didn't profit financially is the suggestion, but she obviously hurt a lot of people with this. I mean, it's fucking crazy saying you were in 9/11. She also said she claimed also to travel to Thailand after the tsunami in 2004 and to Louisiana after Hurricane Katrina. So she made up all this.
Holy shit.
She's a psycho.
You could just be a scammer in the early 2000s, though. I mean, that's why we had those wars in the first place, obviously. But like, you can't really be a scammer anymore. I think credit scores really hurt scamming abilities. And then smartphones and like the internet are really fucking up scammers games. There's a lot of scammers out there, but now you have to like know how to code to be a scammer. It's not as easy as it used to be. But I mean, in the 70s through like the 80s are probably like the chief time for scammers in this country, and the 90s and 2000s still some scamming potential is still out there, as evidenced by this. But I guess she did get caught eventually. It's just so good though. Like, I can't believe it's a good sign of like, or a good indicator of how like much this event kind of drove us crazy as a country, that people were willing to like pull these kinds of stunts for really no reason.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we could go through a couple of the great Wikipedia article, the list of entertainment affected by September 11th. There was a Spider-Man trailer where he like spins a web in between both towers.
Christ.
That was pulled. Zoolander theatrically released 3 weeks after the attacks. The World Trade Center was deleted. Mr. Deeds took shots out of the World Trade Center, and also apparently Adam Sandler was concerned because one of the actors bore a resemblance to Karzai.
Oh my god.
So he was concerned about having a movie where someone who looked like Karzai was in it. So great on you, Adam. But he kept the guy in the movie. So.
The 1992 film Home Alone 2, Lost in New York, features a scene atop the World Trade Center, which they edited out on several television channels, despite the fact that it had been out for like 9 years by that point.
I think you were passed out by the time I put it on, but I watched the City of New York versus Homer Simpson episode last night.
Oh no, I remember that.
Yeah, so there's a giant section where he's at the World Trade Center.
Right.
So
He parks at the World Trade Center and then has to like drive home with a boot on his car.
yeah,
I remember that episode very well.
Um,
Wasn't that was a Simpsons, that was a creepypasta about 9/11, right? Like the Simpsons predicted 9/11 because of like one episode on the or maybe it's a photoshopped image. Either way, I thought about creepypastas as well, like the Wingdings creepypasta I mentioned to you, where if you type like the flight code or something, it comes up with in Wingdings, which people may not remember from Microsoft Word. You could, there were a couple Wingdings like creepypastas out there, but if you type out like Q33 New York, you get like a plane crashing into two towers, and then like the skull and crossbones and the Star of David. And I remember seeing that as like a 9-year-old or like a 12-year-old or something, and just being like, wow, like that's so cool.
The City of New York versus Homer Simpson premiered 4 years earlier and was partially set at the World Trade Center. Was pulled from syndication by some carriers, though many are now showing it again. Some stations or networks remove the World Trade Center scenes in their own cuts, which like that's like half the episode. So I don't know what the fuck you do.
That's so weird. It's so much weirder than just not doing it. Whatever.
I love the Sesame Street. The episode involved a grease fire, which traumatizes Elmo until he meets some firefighters. And a Big Bird has to deal with his xenophobic pen pal Gulliver, who does not believe birds should be friendly to other species.
Okay. The King of the Hill episodes, Propane Boom and Death of a Propane Salesman, when the Megalo Mart explodes, were like pulled and then returned. I don't know, like there was like this weird cultural, maybe it was also a precursor to like the current discourse around media and the idea of representation and also like disinformation. The idea that like the reason people voted for Trump or voted for Brexit or whatever is because of like fake news on social media or something like that. Like there was this fear that like depicting anything to do with 9/11 or anything that could be possibly related to 9/11 was in some way going to cause it again, or was like disrespectful. And they pulled it, and it's like a weird thing that doesn't get mentioned in terms of like the cancel culture discourse.
Speaking of cancel culture, you hear people like go on and on about it, but it's never about, I mean, they never talk about all of the, like, they wouldn't consider like Michael Moore getting booed at the Oscars cancel culture, and him being like literally like them lowering the mic, and it's like they wouldn't care about any like censorship of ideas that were not supportive of the bloodthirsty war. Oh my god. An episode, the Pokemon episode Tentacool and Tentacruel, where they destroy the Tentacruel, destroy a town, and they're these octopus like, or what are they, like jellyfish like?
Yeah.
Pokemon that's smashing a skyscraper in that episode. Also there's an episode called The Tower of Terror, where there's a ghost like Pokemon, the psychic Pokemon. It was pulled only because of the name.
I like how they also pulled a Pokemon episode about a Tentacruel smashing a skyscraper, and they removed that from the opening credits. Man, even Mobile Suit Gundam wasn't safe. Cowboy Bebop had some episodes like pulled out of syndication because of like depictions of terrorism.
And we all noticed the Sopranos opening.
Right.
That's always something I noticed in the early
that was
seasons.
more on the representation side. They're like,
No,
we
it had
gotta
to be
respect
correct.
the towers.
Yeah. Oh God. Totally.
It's anti-Italian discrimination.
Shout out to David Angel, who was the co-executive producer and co-creator of Frasier, who died on American Airlines Flight 11, which hit the North Tower.
He was canceled by the terrorists.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, I read an account about him from Kelsey Grammer, and Kelsey Grammer described how he visited Ground Zero like as soon as he could. He like flew in from LA, and then him and Jim Belushi like toured Ground Zero.
Wow.
Can you imagine
to
that
be a fly
squad
on the wall or on Kelsey Grammer, I guess.
It must have been weird to be a firefighter and then just see like all of the like random celebrities start popping
Did
up.
he bring Camille? He was still with Camille at that time, right?
I don't know.
Of Real Housewives fame.
Oh, see, I told you this. I don't know anyone of the Housewives by name. It all just blends together.
That's true. They're mostly vibes, but I don't know. Any other like memories from entertainment just nuked by September 11th?
Like, oh, this is a good one. There's a Forrest Gump sequel.
Yes.
Where
we've definitely discussed this before.
Yeah, I think they basically like they submitted or the manuscript on like September 10th or something. or whatever. The after the attack happened, they realized that like the script was no longer quote relevant. And that because obviously Forrest would have to be at 9/11.
Weirdly, I think it is similar to you know, the kind of, I don't want to say like cancel culture, but like the kind of like increased scrutiny of I don't know, cultural products for like depictions of I don't know, social injustice recently. Like I think because during the Obama years, if you watch like 30 Rock or even like South Park or anything like that, it's so over the top in making problematic jokes like on purpose. Whereas
there's a good episode where Cartman becomes a truther.
Yeah, like but they like after with the recent turn, there's been such a strong reaction to it, and it's weird how quickly things can turn around. But I think we saw something similar at this time, where in like the 90s, we were like, it was all disaster movies. Everyone thought that history was over, so it was safe to make, you know, movies about warfare, anything we wanted, because we were just like, everything's fine now. The Soviet Union fell, but like 9/11 made people kind of snap out of that like dream, that post Cold War dream, and like I don't know, now that they kind of just went on like this like sincerity poisoning tour after 9/11 to like make sure that everything, you know, didn't bring up people's, you know, bad memories of the one time we were attacked on our soil in the, you know, post-war era.
Yeah. Shout out to the film that never happened, Jackie Chan starring in this one called Nosebleed, where he plays a window washer at the World Trade Center who foils a terrorist plot, due to start filming on September 11th, 2001.
Oh my God.
So also the whole like Master of Disguise thing, a Defector had a great article about how the Turtle Club scene, which famously it's famous trivia that the Turtle Club scene in the Master of Disguise where Dana Carvey is dressed as a turtle was filmed on September 11th, and they observed a moment of silence. Now that is not exactly the case. It was not it happened, they observed a moment of silence before the Turtle Club scene, but it was a few weeks after September 11th. Now it makes a lot more sense because like you'd have to say something, right?
Yeah. That's so interesting though, having to like change gears from that to I don't know.
Okay, we have to watch the absolute worst of 9/11 culture, this extremely weird trailer for a movie that came out a couple of years ago called 9/11.
Yeah, it's clips time. We got to go through the clips, and we've got clips.
So you got Charlie Sheen in an elevator with Luis Guzman and Gina Gershon.
Whoopi Goldberg.
Whoopi is the operator here.
The 9/11 crash trademark.
So I think they're in the North Tower.
Yeah.
Now Whoopi like feels it in her building. Like where is she? Whatever.
Where the hell are you? Are you in that building? We're still in the North Tower.
Also, I like how Matt Lauer is shown so much about in these 9/11 news clips.
Hey, buddy. We got an inferno on the North Tower on 90 and above.
You cannot take the elevators.
It just seems quite exploitive.
Yeah, this came out what, like how many years? Like 5 years ago or something.
Yeah, and they released it like on the anniversary. Luis Guzman looks just terrified in that shot.
I'm sorry, but
based on actual events.
Like it's
shit.
It's a dramatized version.
Yeah, they're not like playing real people. Okay, they just show this plane hit the South Tower at, like in the frame of a disaster movie.
No, this is so weird. It's like a disaster movie, but like a historical fiction about 9/11.
It's like really fucked up.
God, the guy for The Wire.
In the face of terror.
Oh shit.
So the elevator cables are breaking.
Oh,
this is so fucking ridiculous.
I love
Charlie Sheen just like, oh,
just fucking smacked out like
South Tower falls. Luis Guzman and Charlie Sheen
like
holding hands.
Oh.
They're holding hands, laying in the elevator.
Charlie Sheen is one of the he's sweating his ass off in this role.
Yeah. Okay, now they're like floating as the elevator collapses.
Free fall.
The free fall. That is so fucked up.
They can see our faces, right? Like
no, they can't.
My eyes were wide watching that. Yeah. I don't know. That's a weird one because it wasn't like in the immediate hysteria of 9/11. It's not like World Trade Center, the Nicolas Cage movie about 9/11.
Yeah, I watched the trailer for that. It wasn't even funny.
No,
also
it's pretty joyless.
Fun trivia. I didn't have a birthday gift for my dad one year.
No.
So I was at ShopRite and I just saw World Trade Center on DVD. So I bought him that as a birthday gift. He probably
That's
still
what
has
every
that
dad
somewhere.
wants.
Yes, Nicolas Cage.
That's beautiful, actually.
Yeah. Nicolas Cage in World Trade Center. Now, obviously, there were some remembrances yesterday, so we need to watch. We need to watch a couple things here.
By far, the most important thing here is, of course, Trump hosting like a pay-per-view boxing event for 9/11. After he spoke to an NYPD precinct, and what was the? Oh, and he also did an evangelical event virtually, which took place in the National Mall, but he was not in. He was not at the event in person.
That was a fantastic job by a really great young man. He's got a big future, and we're just honored.
We love Trump.
Thank you.
We love Trump. We love Trump.
That's what everybody's saying in the audience. I don't think you hear that back home. Everybody's screaming.
This is just the braying hogs. There's some guys there who are just like hands folded, like they don't like it.
Look how happy he is.
Trump has never been happy.
He's gonna cry.
This is
He
amazing.
loves it.
This is the best day of his life, honestly.
Thank you.
He's like crying.
Thank you. Hands up.
Thank you very much.
What an amazing rendition of the national anthem.
These guys got jokes.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. This is an honor to be with you, and what a great evening. And I think you're going to see an incredible fight. And Jorge, it's great, Junior. It's great to be with you guys and champions. We love you, man. Special people. Special warriors.
He loves dudes so much.
Special warriors.
We're still going strong. Trump.
He's grinning like a demon.
That's
We
good.
love Trump.
They got the chant going that's been going around stadiums in college football for the last couple of days.
Great.
Well, it's a great
We
honor.
love
Thank
Trump
you very
and
much.
college
Thank you,
football.
everybody, very much. We
God,
love
if
our
they-
country. I love our country. Thank you very much. So we're going to see a great fight tonight, and we've seen some good ones. That last one
I'm
was.
going to call that thing.
One of the best fights in terms of punching. If they give Trump his Twitter back, we are gonna have President Trump again in 2024. It's gonna be bad. But speaking of presidential, let's see what George,
Very much,
the
Laura, and I
perpetrator,
are
was
honored.
doing.
He did it. Let's be real here. Look at him.
I'm here
To be
again to
with you.
say,
Madam Vice President,
Vice President Cheney.
The dog hates Bush.
Governor Wolf, Secretary
Yeah, our
Holland,
dog, my
and
dog literally
distinguished
just started
guests.
barking at the fucking.
At Bush.
20 years ago,
apropos of nothing.
we all found in different ways, in different places, but all
My
at the
neighbor.
same
Okay, we
moment,
have to say this. My
that our
neighbor is
lives
this
would be
older
changed
guy,
forever.
and we were like watching Fahrenheit 9/11
The world
with
was
him.
loud with carnage.
Loud
and
with
sirens.
carnage. And he
then
just was
quiet
like,
with missing voices.
he talks
that
like
would
an
never be
R
heard
word.
These
And I
lives
was like,
remain
well, I'm not
precious
gonna
to our
say it,
country
but-
It was very
and intimately precious
problematic
to
but
many of you.
I'm here for any Bush.
Today we
slander,
remember your
honestly.
loss, we share your sorrow, and we honor the men and women you have loved so long and so well.
They've let
And
him
we
get
found
out
that even
so
the
much
longest
because
days
people think
end.
he's better than Trump or something.
Many of us have tried to make
He's so
spiritual
out of
sense
pocket.
of these events. There is no simple explanation for the mix of providence and human will.
He's got
that
a
sets
point
the
there. There is
direction
no
of our
simple
lives.
explanation.
But comfort can come from a
You're
different
never
sort
going
of
to hear one.
knowledge.
So
After wandering long and lost in the dark, many have found they were actually walking step by step toward grace.
Oh my God! Shut
As
the
a
fuck
nation, our
up.
adjustments have been profound.
this is some Pete Buttigieg
Many
shit.
Americans struggled to understand why an enemy would hate us with such zeal.
Because you
The security
Killed their
measures
family.
incorporated into our lives
A lot of us would struggle to
both
understand why they
sources
had
of comfort
such sophisticated like technology
and reminders of our
stuff.
vulnerability. And we have seen growing evidence that the dangers to our country can come not only across borders, but from violence that gathers within.
Oh my God!
There is little cultural overlap between violent extremists abroad and violent extremists at home. But in their disdainful pluralism, in their
He's trying to make
disregard
this
for
about
human
Trump,
life,
despite the fact that like this is his.
in their
L to say.
determination to
You know what's a
defile
disregard of
national
human
symbols.
life? Like bombing the shit
They
out
are
of the Middle
children of the
East.
same foul spirit, and it is our continuing duty
Children
to
of the
confront
same
them.
foul spirit. Like this is an adult
World.
talking to adults.
Nothing that has followed, nothing, can tarnish your honor or diminish your accomplishments. To you and to the honored dead, our country is forever grateful.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shanksville does sound like
In the
your
weeks and months
average
following the
made-up
9/11
Pennsylvania
attacks,
town.
I was proud to lead an amazing, resilient, united people.
Yeah.
When it comes to the unity of America, those days seem distant from our own. Malign force
We
seems at
used to
work
be
in our
united,
common
but
life
now we're
that turns every
disunited.
disagreement into an argument, and
I
every
was
argument
my
into
God.
a clash of cultures.
Cancel culture. Say cancel culture.
So much of our politics has become a naked appeal to anger, fear, and resentment.
Oh, you never did that. Not
That leaves
once
us
in your,
worried
like,
about our
fucking
nation
administration did you ever do that?
and our
It's
future
terror-
together.
That.
It's terror level
I
orange.
come without
Yeah,
explanations
it's
or
fucking
solutions.
terror level amber today.
I can
everybody.
only tell
Go
you
about
what
your
I've
day.
seen.
Go shopping.
On America's day of trial and grief, I saw millions of people instinctively grab for a neighbor's hand
Oh my God.
and rally
What do you mean
to
your
the
dad
cause
grabbing
of one
ass
another.
from like his wheelchair? You motherfucker.
That is the America I
His
know.
dad groping people.
As you may know, one of the great stories of my life was witnessing George H.W.'s hearse in person in D.C. on Constitution
At a
Ave.
time when
Great
religious
times in my
bigotry
life.
might have flowed freely,
His
I
hearse
saw
being driven
Americans
through
reject
the
prejudice
city.
and embrace people of Muslim faith. That is
Yo.
the nation I know.
No, it's fuck off. Like fucking not only Muslims, but like Sikhs are getting like
At a
the
time
shit
when
beat out of them
nativism could have
regularly.
stirred
After
hatred and
9/11,
violence
because everyone blamed like
against
them
people
and their
perceived as
family for
outsiders.
9/11 because you
I
said
saw
that people in
Americans
their
reaffirm
countries
their welcome
were
to
like
immigrants and
harboring
refugees.
terrorists, and that it was like
That
their
is the
fault this
nation I
happened.
know.
Shut the fuck up. I fucking hate George Bush. Way worse than Trump.
Bush worse than
At a
Trump.
time when some
100%.
viewed
The
the
Bush
rising
family, all they ever
generation
did was
as
take turns
individual.
nutting on Geronimo's skull at the Skull and Bones fucking club in Yale or whatever, and ruining the country. And like his grandfather literally had like business with Nazis. This is a terrible person. We need to lighten up again. We need America's mayor. Like, where's he at now? What's he doing?
Rudolph was literally a fucking legend during, like, people loved Rudolph Giuliani.
Especially after that fucking SNL episode too.
Exactly. Where he did the famous joke, Lorne Michaels says, "Can we be funny?" And then Giuliani says, "Why start now?"
Oh, I mean, he did get him with that.
That's some good writing. But why start now? Showing up to the speech extremely drunk.
Hell yeah! It's 9/11.
Imagine
He's
a Tony
celebrating.
Blinken or Miley. How's that guy a general? Jesus. The other day, he said that the Bagram Air Force Base is not strategically important.
Back room address.
I wanted to grab his, what do you have, 5 stars, 10 stars, 12 stars? There's so many stars that come into his ears. I wanted to grab his stars, shove it down his throat, and say, "It's 400 miles from China, asshole!"
Silence.
40
to that.
years. You have an air base
You can hear a pin
400
drop.
miles from them, and you're giving it up, idiot. What the hell is wrong with you? Who paid you? Christ.
Spitting.
That is crazy.
Who pays a U.S. general? I don't know.
I don't know. I shouldn't get into this. What Biden did in the last 2 weeks is freaking insane.
Really, he's a sad drunk.
It cannot be
We didn't know this about
explained.
him.
He's sad. Yeah.
He's being like that lady he brought to the Michigan courtroom who's like,
Well,
the voting rolls are fucked
20
up.
years ago,
Yeah.
I did my job for the country. I'm very proud of it. But I did it because of them.
Wow. Thank you,
What
Rudy.
Bernie demonstrated to you. I was so happy he did. You can't show everybody, right?
Bernie
You can't show
Bernie Carrick.
Not
every
Bernie
one of
Sanders.
them.
Not Bernie
would
Sanders.
like to show you the 10 people that supported them. Right, Espo? Right, Joe?
my God.
Right?
Bernie
You didn't
Carrick,
do
who
it on your
used
own.
an
How many
apartment
people
meant
did you
for
have
9/11
helping
first
you?
responders
I
to have
had
sex
Denny,
with his mistress.
I had
Nice.
Tony. I had Howard.
That's what 9/11's all
I had
about.
Joe. And I had a lot of people that
Someone get this man a glass of water.
I mean, I had these
Right.
people that were
He
with
sounds
me.
like he's literally like
I couldn't have
like just like SpongeBob during that one episode where he like is in Sandy's house and like is thirsty, like has no
I
water.
don't need it. I like how his subtitle there says "Host Common Sense Podcast." Like, Rudy
Shout
has-
out to the Common Sense
He
podcast.
has really fallen. I mean, he's on our level now. He's just a lowly podcaster.
Okay, there's a little more.
Oh no!
She said, you did a wonderful job. On
He
September
loves an
11th,
impression.
and therefore I'm making you an honorary knight.
He's talking about the
Commander
Queen.
Queen
of
Elizabeth,
the
baby.
Royal something or other. I turned down a knighthood because if you took a knighthood, you had to lose your citizenship. I know Prince Andrew is very questionable now. I never went out with him. Never had a drink with him. Never was with a woman or a young girl with him. Ever. One time, I met him in my office, and
Prince
one time
Andrew's so
when we had the
fucking
party, right,
toxic
Bernie?
that
You were
Rudy's
there.
Like that. I mean, like I know who he is. Like, I don't
She
know.
said,
I
you
don't
did.
know. That's
Oh
so
my
fucking
God.
funny. Wow.
That is just classic stuff.
Oh man. Well, I mean, I guess my obituary for Rudy's career was premature because he's still churning out some bangers here.
Yeah, and I mean, let's. I mean, what more can we say about 9/11?
Yeah, it's nothing. I didn't want to go into this like to make light of the events of 9/11, which are by any measure tragic and disturbing, and there was like so much heroism displayed. But
kind of goes without saying though, like we shouldn't have to like disclaimer
I know.
talking about an event. Like I know why, but it's like obvious.
It's much bigger than just the event itself is the thing. Like there's like this whole world outside of 9/11. There were massive atrocities that were done in the name of 9/11, both here and abroad. And it's just like, I don't know. We need
thousands and thousands of people like were killed because thousands of people died on 9/11. Like it was we just like reaped more like suffering and death and destruction and maiming people, they just retaliated in a way that we were all somewhat forced to just accept. And to dissent from that was like you were considered just like a pariah, clearly.
Yeah.
like we emphasized with the Michael Moore clip.
And it's worthwhile to look at that shift because there's something similar going on now for different reasons. But I don't know. It's something that people need to talk about in like a more level-headed like way, and not in a way that's like entirely, I don't know, either emotional or driven by like propaganda or driven by political considerations. Like, I mean, there's a way to accept that it was a tragedy and also like not let it be your justification for killing like 1 million people in the Middle East. I think there's a way we can do it.
I mean, Bush, Rumsfeld, Cheney. I feel like we didn't even say Rumsfeld's name during this. We barely talked about Cheney.
Rummy.
Cheney, who, you know, he was a administration official across many years, and then, you know, him and Bush, you know, were paired together. They hated each other, and he just unilaterally took control on 9/11, and you know, had the plans for Afghanistan and Iraq basically already written up. So that's why it happened so fast, the occupation there.
That's why he did such a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we could, you know, this is an all-encompassing event. We could go on and on. There's so much 9/11 media. There's the music's so fucking bad.
Of course, the Where Were You by Alan Jackson really sticks out to me. I don't know. Yeah, there's more we could say about it, but I don't know. I think we've touched on everything I want to touch on about this, the place that occupies the event itself, and also the place it occupies in our cultural memory at the 20-year point that we're now at.
Yeah, I guess we kind of did. We can't really grasp that level of like just complete cruelty and like just and that was the era, the milieu we grew up in.
Yeah,
which is like a crazy thing that our formative years were during such a stupid time where, like, you know, we look back at it now and it seems like, you know, it seems like quaint.
Do you feel any safer also?
No, of course not.
I don't know.
Of course not. And Obama didn't fucking help with anything.
No. Although he did kill Osama bin Laden, which I mean, like, to be fair, like, but the Bush administration like probably could have done that at any point. They just didn't want to.
No, the Taliban offered to hand over bin Laden.
Yeah.
Weeks after 9/11.
We don't negotiate with terrorists. That we just fund them.
Yeah, we just fund them and arm them, and then fucking you know, throw our own people.
That's what mutual aid's all about.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna wrap it up here. Follow us on Twitter at Hog Planet. Follow me at Spaventacular, SPAVENTACULAR. Follow the Substack. You gonna start writing on that more, Sam?
Yes, gosh, please. I've been busy, but yeah, I will.
Hogplanet.substack.com, and you know, it's email list. And yeah, we are gonna be back. You know, we had a nice break here, but I wanted to talk about ivermectin in this episode, but we didn't even get to it because there was so much 9/11 to discuss.
Yeah, we'll do ivermectin live on air a different time.
Yeah,
Dan promises.
I do. All right, we are wrapping it up here. This is Hog Planet. We didn't even mention Tower 7.